Hi, I'm Trevor Smith, Design Manager, and I just want to talk to you about alternative uses for containers. Everybody thinks about their containers on their deck, on their patio, on their balcony, and those are all great, especially if you're using some natives in there, because on a balcony, if that's all you have, is a great way to add a native garden to your space. However, right now, I want to talk to you about the transition times within the season. We have the geraniums that are going out of bloom, peonies are going out of bloom. We are end of June, beginning of July. This is that transition time. So as a designer, and what my designers do here at Weston, is we use containers within the garden. Containers are great in the garden because they act as structural support and statuary. They add interest to the garden, they add height to the garden. But when you plant your containers with annuals, like these guys right here, you add pops of color that last while the perennials wax and wane throughout the season, which is exactly what you're looking for. So here we have a nice pop of purple backing up this yellow, with all of this added texture up here with the palm grass. And then here we have our pops of pink surrounded here with purple in this nice yellow container. So in garden design, we do our best to structure the perennials so that they will come in and out of bloom throughout the entire season. However, in the height of the summer, there's a definite low. So here we can see that the salvia is starting to pass, but the daisies back here are just budding out. These are going to be great in July and August, but there is going to be a lull in here. It's also easier to maintain annuals in a container because you can fertilize them specifically, you can water them specifically, while the rest of your garden doesn't necessarily need all of that attention, but your annuals do. So this is a real low maintenance way to add interest to your garden and make it pop. So with the proper care, deadheading, fertilization and water, these annuals will continue to grow and bloom throughout the entire season. All right, so step one is going to be choosing your container. Best way if you're choosing containers for your garden are to just choose something fun and funky that you like, something that fits your style, something that that you were going to want to look at and that you would want to look at whether it had flowers in it or not. Something like this has great shape, the paint texture, the glaze texture on it. So even if there wasn't anything in this, this would be fun to look at in the garden. Remember that it's going to be in the garden, so something too small, like these two that I'm sitting with, may be too low and may get swallowed up by the garden. So you would like something taller, like this guy right here, that will stand above all the perennials. But as the perennials in the spring are coming up, this pot will slowly get covered over time. And then as they recede in the fall, and if you leave this pot out in the winter, as that pop of color in the winter when our eyes are just starved for color. So for the display garden that we were showing you, we chose a yellow container to kind of play off the yellows that are already in the garden, but to really contrast the purple. And then the white is just that neutral color, which will make everything pop. It'll stand alone. The container itself is relatively plain, so if you're going to do a very textural or colorful planting, a plain white container works just fine. When you're choosing your annuals for your garden, you're going to want to match the pot possibly, or you're going to want to match the surrounding perennial color. So we all know the basic recipe, the thriller, the filler, and the spiller. I will be coming out with another video soon to kind of give you my foolproof way to choose and purchase your annuals so that you're not wasting time and wasting money on extra plants. However, you're going to want to have something tall, either to the back or in the middle of your planter, which would be great. It's always good to add something textural, like we have here. And then we have all the different colors that you have going on. And yes, it's good to have something, even in a garden, to have something spilling over the side. You also want to have things that are going to spill out and make it robust. You want your container to look like it's bursting at the seams. And that's easy enough to do, either buying small and letting them grow out, or just packing that container with lots of color, lots of texture, and we're going to show you a bunch of examples later. This is just a real basic example of a container that our experts here at Weston have planted up, and you can see that we have texture going on right in here. We have multiple colors. This is a very bright container with the brights and the cools with the cool pot, but we have it spilling over, and these are just going to fill out and continue to burst at the seams, while we have our thriller or the mandevilla here, that height piece that we were talking about, and that's just going to continue to grow, spill, twine around, and give us that consistent color throughout the season. But while you're choosing your annuals, it's also good to think about all of the things that are going to be visiting your garden. Specifically hummingbirds, which is why we're here in the shade garden, because when you think of hummingbirds, you don't think of shade. But the dragon wing begonias and the gardenmeister fuchsia, when coupled with coleus and some chartreuse colors not only make your shade pop, but they will bring the hummingbirds to your garden for you. So these are wonderful shade annuals for that shady little corner of the garden. So a bright pot, bright red annuals to attract those hummingbirds and some of those butterflies, along with some chartreuse colors and some yellows, will make a great shade planting. So think about your container, because your container is going to reflect your personality, perhaps even more so than your garden does. Containers can be used for spring, summer, fall, and winter. So you can switch that out throughout the season and keep that touch going. So take some time, look at your garden. Look at how the perennials ebb and flow, come and go through the seasons, and think about adding structure and pops of color to your garden. So if you like this video, we have plenty more like this, and we have plenty more coming. So check out our YouTube channel and check us out on social. For Weston Nurseries, I'm Trevor Smith, talking to you about containers and pops of color in the garden.